The day before Pearl Harbor, according to the Gallup poll, just 16% of the U.S. public supported this country entering World War II. The day after Pearl Harbor, 1 million men volunteered to fight in that war. That stingingly effective deception, at least, was in service of adding another powerful ally to the struggle to defeat Nazi Germany. And I, for one, retroactively endorse that. But such an ethically warranted fraud, if I may use that phrase, is virtually a lone exception to the rule in this sordid category. Typical, on the other hand, was the supposed attack by North Vietnamese torpedo boats in early August 1964 on 2 U.S. destroyers in the Gulf of Tonkin. And I believe this has been referred to earlier in the evening. That's a problem when you come last. The supposed attack on the U.S. destroyers Maddox and Turner Joy was a sham. Navy Commander James Stockdale, later who was Ross Perot's vice presidential candidate, was flying cover in the Tonkin Gulf that night. Our destroyers were firing at phantom targets, he wrote later. There was nothing there but black water and American firepower. Lyndon Johnson, nevertheless, went on TV to deceive the American people and the Congress. The result was overwhelming support for immediate passage of the Tonkin Gulf Resolution, which was the sole legal basis for the Vietnam War, the loss of 3 million Vietnamese lives and 58,000 American ones, and creation of a schism in the U.S. body politic that continues to this day. Emblematic, and the media have been mentioned here without praise earlier this evening, and after 33 years as a media critic, I can't find any fault with that. Emblematic of media malfeasance and supine service of illegitimate power then and now, the New York Times, after LBJ's speech, editorialized that, quote, "The president went to the American people last night with the somber facts," unquote. The most somber fact is that if we, the people, cannot force today's top hidden history into the open, a cascade of calamitous events is very likely to ensue. And my main prayer is that I am wrong. Thank you.
You've been so patient. We've been talking up here a lot, showing a lot of information. We invite you now. We have roamers out there with microphones to get your questions for the panel. So you can put some tough questions, some questions of any sort that you like. We have people out there with microphones, and we're going to get people to ask a question.
Where exactly are Rice and Powell in this whole dance? I only heard one person say something about Condoleezza Rice, but also Colin Powell, so those two.
Powell did not want to go along with the program. And he was basically pressured to sell the war to sell the war on Iraq. He was in the White House at the time when post 9/11 they were trying to ride that terror wave into Iraq. There were a number of offices, and I'm sure many of you have heard of them. Within the administration, there was the White House Information Group with Condoleezza Rice and company, who were they were the messengers, and the messages were being formulated for them to send out at the same time to sell the war, and the images of the mushroom clouds. And then there was the Office of Special Plans for cherry-picking intelligence and putting it together in a way, again, that would sell disinformation to the American public. And part of the Office of Special Plans was also to put pressure on high-level people in the CIA, the NSA, and even Colin Powell not to go along with the program. But unfortunately, he buckled. And he's trying to get Bob Woodward to sort of write his mea culpa in a sense, but he was a a big man in a tight spot, and he did not, I think, acquit himself very, very well. He didn't stand up and call a halt to the madness.
Rice took over as National Security Advisor with a different agenda. She's a Europeanist. She's an expert on the Soviet Union.
Cold War.
Cold War, that's right. She was, and in a certain sense, I think is still, mired in the Cold War. She came into the White House. She put down the issue of terrorism. The counterterrorism planning group, the crisis unit, which the Clinton administration had formed, she downgraded it. Richard Clarke, she demoted. The plan that he advised, she put on the file cabinet. That plan took then 9 months to get to the president's desk the day before September the 11th.
We have just seen that the events of 9/11 were enormous, multifaceted, multi-step. My belief is that an operation of that enormity was probably in the works for many, many years. The fact that it happened on 9/11/2001 puts the Bush administration only 9 months into it. Prior to it, as we know, for 8 years, there was Mr. Clinton in the White House. What is, to the panel's mind, was Mr. Clinton's and his administration role in the events of 9/11?
I would say that towards the end of the 1990s, you have the emergence of an oligarchical consensus that the entire U.S. ruling class, ruling elite, comes to see terrorism as the preferred means, indeed the only means, to provide social cohesion, to provide an enemy image for the society to keep it together. According to neocon theory from Carl Schmitt, you have to have an enemy image in order to have a society. They were concerned, of course, about world domination and geopolitics, the continuing Russian nuclear deterrent, the economic dynamism of China, which is rapidly overtaking the rest of the world, the demographic dynamism of the Islamic world. They were also concerned about the collapse of the monetary system, the fact that many countries are on the verge of dumping the dollar as a means of payment for oil, but also for many other things, for trade, and going to the euro or some other solution. And towards the end of that period, it seems to me that you have this oligarchical agreement that terror is the way to go. It's a very dangerous thing because now it means that the entire social order, the political parties, intellectual life, politics in general, all based on a monstrous myth. Now, concerning these presidents, I think it's very naive to think that whatever puppet happens to be sitting in the White House is somebody who actually has power. One of the things I try to do in my book, I try to give you a thumbnail sketch of the mental wrecks, the impaired people, let's say, severely impaired people who have been in the Oval Office. Generally, it took at least one nervous breakdown to qualify as president. Now, Clinton is simply a plausible face for this apparatus that's sitting there, and I think it's a mistake either with Clinton or with Bush. Although I think now with Bush in the more recent phase, it's more serious. You got to go back to the fact that these people are simply figureheads.
Thank you, Webster. Next question. Thank you. Sir, in the middle.
My name is Garland Roberts. I'm head of the Black alumni at Brooklyn Technical High School. We were the first people on site with generators and everything else, and we met up with massive amounts of problems. We also were the people originally that were the third bidders on the emergency exit systems. We personally knew the whole of the systems that go through the 2 World Trade Center, 7, and the hotel, and physically didn't need plans or anything else on site. They continuously tried to keep us from getting involved. They were telling us, well, we didn't need you. We knew the things intimately. They wouldn't let us underneath because the kids had told us, and other kids that were involved with the subways, that they had come up in the under subfloors where they had the different switches that cut off the floors, and then we knew there were people trapped there. Now, there's another man that's important for your damn thing. That's Carl Ross, who was the other guy with us that we're trying to get them to let us actually draw out, show them where to go and everything else.